Good morning, everyone. Paul Rupel here with Fox 29 News Now. Happy Wednesday. You've made it to the middle of the week. We're going to get you out to some live events today. The first being the testimony of Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg. This is just getting underway now. Let's take a live listen to the hearing room. Facebook's under intense pressure to get it right in 2020, to not allow countries or individuals with bad intentions to influence our elections, and so the social media giant is introducing new tools to try to help it achieve what may be an unachievable goal. That's how Fox News chief correspondent Jonathan Hunt put it last night. The company is launching new features to make posts related to the presidential race more transparent. The company's CEO, who you see there, Mark Zuckerberg, is making the distinction between those who want to disrupt the democratic process and those who are part of it. Facebook has also announced it has recently removed 4 networks of fake state-backed accounts involved in spreading misinformation. Facebook said it will also ban any ads suggesting voting is useless or advising people not to vote. We're expecting Zuckerberg's testimony here to begin any moment. He just walked into the hearing room moments ago. He's testifying to the House Financial Services Committee. The hearing is on, quote,
Without objection, the chair is authorized to declare recess of the committee at any time. This hearing is
an examination of Facebook and its impact on the financial services and housing sectors. Facebook announced plans earlier this year to launch its own cryptocurrency called Libra in 2020. That is the focus of the hearing here today. Congresswoman Maxine Waters is the chairperson of this committee. She's speaking now. Let's listen in for a couple minutes.
Libra and a digital wallet, Calibra, raised many concerns relating to privacy, trading risk, discrimination, opportunities for diverse-owned financial firms, national security, monetary policy, and the stability of the global financial system. I and other Democrats have called for a moratorium on Facebook's development of its digital currency Libra and digital wallet Calibra until Congress can examine the issues associated with a big tech company developing these digital products and take action. As I have examined Facebook's various problems, I've come to the conclusion that it would be beneficial for all if Facebook concentrates on addressing its many existing deficiencies and failures before proceeding any further on the Libra project. Let's review the record. First, on diversity and inclusion. Facebook has utterly failed. Facebook's executive ranks and workforce continue to be mostly white and male. Since Reverend Jesse Jackson and the Rainbow Push Coalition called upon Silicon Valley companies, including Facebook, to release its diversity statistics more than 5 years ago, the representation of African Americans and Hispanics has increased by less than 2%. Facebook also told us that they have $0 managed by diverse firms. On fair housing, Facebook has been sued by the National Fair Housing Alliance for enabling advertisers to engage in discrimination on its advertising platforms. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development has also filed an official charge of discrimination against Facebook for its advertising practices, including the company's own ad delivery algorithms, which were found to have a discriminatory impact when advertisers did not target their audience in discriminatory ways. I understand that Facebook has refused to cooperate with HUD's fair housing investigation by refusing to provide relevant data On competition and fairness, Facebook is the subject of an antitrust investigation by the attorneys generals of 47 states and the District of Columbia. On protecting consumers, Facebook was fined $5 billion by the Federal Trade Commission for deceiving consumers and failing to keep their data private. On elections, Facebook enabled the Russian government to interfere with our election in 2016 with ads designed to pit Americans against each other, suppress the vote, and boost Trump. For example, Facebook allowed a counterfeit Black Lives Matter webpage to operate with the goal of discouraging African Americans from voting. 3 years later, these activities are still continuing on Facebook. We learned just this week that Russia and Iran are using the same tactics to meddle in our next election. Now on political speech. Last week, you announced that Facebook would not be doing fact-checking on political ads, giving anyone Facebook labels a politician a platform to lie, mislead, and misform the American people, which will also allow Facebook to sell more ads. The impact of this will be a massive voter suppression effort that will move at the speed of a click. Your claim to promote freedom of speech does not ring true. Mr. Zuckerberg, each month, 2.7 billion people use your products. That's over a third of the world's population. That's huge. That's so big that it's clear to me and to anyone who hears this list that perhaps you believe that you're above the law, and it appears that you are aggressively increasing the size of your company and are willing to step on or over anyone, including your competitors, women, people of color, your own users, and even our democracy to get what you want. All of these problems I've outlined, and given the company's size and reach, it should be clear why we have serious concerns about your plans to establish a global digital currency that would challenge the U.S. dollar. In fact, you have opened up a serious discussion about whether Facebook should be broken up. The chair now recognizes the ranking member of the committee, the gentleman from North Carolina, Mr. McHenry, for 5 minutes for an opening statement.
Thank you, Chairwoman Waters. Thank you, Mr. Zuckerberg, for your appearance. Today is a trial on American innovation. There's a growing concern about the role that technology plays in our lives. That's warranted. That's necessary. Yes, technology has led to greater prosperity, more freedom of expression, and the ability to transcend the limits of space and time to connect us with one another. It's a powerful tool for our society, developed here in the United States, gone global. But we know there's also a downside to all of this. The vitriol on social media is frightening. The growing inequality between those who have access to the latest tech gadgets remain on the coasts, while folks living in rural America are still trying to get the same connectivity necessary to compete in a global marketplace. Not to mention the anxiety of the age. That's a deep cultural moment for us, not as politicians, but as Americans. That nervous feeling that you need to check your phone throughout the day. That's something that is now a cultural occurrence for all of us, especially members of Congress, most of whom in this room are doing that right now. There's a lot of anger out there, and now it's being directed at the architects of this system. That's why you're here, Mr. Zuckerberg. That's why you're here today. You are one of the titans of what we call the digital age. There's an enormous amount of responsibility, an enormous weight based off the innovation that you've wrought. And maybe it's not about Libra. It's not just about some housing ads, no. And maybe it's not really even about Facebook at all. It's that larger question. And fair or not fair, you're here today to answer for the digital age. But of course, you're not America's first innovator, and we hope you're not America's last. This is not the first time that America has faced difficult questions about technology. Sadly, throughout the history of innovation, a major theme is the exploitation of fear. Politicians, enabled by special interests and a lack of understanding of new technology, use fear to justify what is ultimately a power grab. New laws, new regulation, but ultimately old and tired ways to centralize power here in Washington or other systems of government. Some of this has led in the past to comical results, and we hope to avoid it now. But just as one example, there was a time when legislators pushed for what was then called red flag laws, which required vehicles, so-called horseless carriages of that age, to immediately stop on the side of the road and disassemble the automobile until equestrians or livestock was sufficiently pacified. But other times in history, the use of fear was not so funny. Our last hearing on Libra, for example, was a moment when members of Congress on this dais actually compared that technology of Libra to the terrorist attacks of September 11th.
Will the gentleman yield?
Look, I have my own
Making
qualms
a
about
reference to
Facebook
nice comment.
and
Will
Libra.
the gentleman yield?
The time belongs to the gentleman from North Carolina.
Thank you for taking the bait. Look, I have my qualms about Facebook and Libra. I do. And the shortcomings of big tech. There are many, yes, there are. But if history has taught us anything, it's better to be on the side of American innovation, competition, and most importantly, the freedom to build a better future for all of us. Progress is not preordained. And American progress and American domination of free speech and global rights is not preordained. Let us not forget that the wave of innovation is spreading across the world, with or without us. So that's why I believe that American innovation is on trial this day in this hearing. And the question is, are we going to spend our time trying to devise ways for government planners to centralize and control as to who, when, and how innovators can innovate? Or will we spend time contemplating and leading the way on the question of whether or not it'll be American innovation that leads the next century, being led by American values, the notion that we have of the rule of law and free speech rights, and American-driven jobs and innovation? Are we going to spend our time building a brighter future for Americans or trying to tear each other apart? I yield back.
I'd like to welcome today's witnesses. Oh, actually, we only have one. Mr. Mark Zuckerberg, Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of Facebook. This is Mr. Zuckerberg's first appearance before this committee, but I believe that Mr. Zuckerberg needs no introduction. Mr. Zuckerberg, without objection, your written statement will be made part of the record. You will have 5 minutes to summarize your testimony. When you have 1 minute remaining, a yellow light will appear. At that time, I would ask you to wrap up your testimony so we can be respectful of the committee members' time. Mr. Zuckerberg, you are now recognized for 5 minutes to present your oral testimony.
Thank you, Chairwoman Waters, Ranking Member McHenry, and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. As we sit here, there are more than 1 billion people around the world who don't have access to a bank account, but could through mobile phones if the right system existed. And that includes more than 14 million people right here in the US. Being shut out of the financial system has real consequences for people's lives, and it's often the most disadvantaged people who pay the highest price. People pay far too high a cost and have to wait far too long to send money home to their families abroad. The current system is failing them. The financial industry is stagnant, and there is no digital financial architecture to support the innovation that we need. I believe that this problem can be solved, and Libra can help. The idea behind Libra is that sending money should be as easy and secure as sending a message. Libra will be a global payment system, fully backed by a reserve of cash and highly liquid assets. Now, I believe that this is something that needs to get built, but I get that I'm not the ideal messenger for this right now. We've faced a lot of issues over the past few years, and I'm sure there are a lot of people who wish it were anyone but Facebook who were helping to propose this. But there's a reason that we care about this, and that's because Facebook is about putting power in people's hands. Our services already give people a voice to express what matters to them and to build businesses that create opportunity. Giving people control of their money is important too, and a simple, secure, and stable way to transfer money is empowering. Over the long term, if this means that more people transact on our platforms, that'll be good for our business. But even if it doesn't, I still think this could help people everywhere. Before we move forward, there are important risks that need to be addressed. There are questions about financial stability, fighting terrorism, and more, and I'm here today to discuss those risks and how we plan to address them. But I also hope that we get a chance to talk about the risks of not innovating. Because while we debate these issues, the rest of the world isn't waiting. China is moving quickly to launch a similar idea in the coming months. Libra is going to be backed mostly by dollars, and I believe that it will extend America's financial leadership around the world, as well as our democratic values and oversight. But if America doesn't innovate, our financial leadership is not guaranteed. I actually don't know if Libra is going to work, but I believe that it's important to try new things, and as long as you're doing so responsibly. That's what has made America successful, and it's why our tech industry has led the world. So we co-wrote a white paper to put this idea out into the world and to start a conversation with regulators and experts and governments. And today's hearing is an important part of that process. What we're discussing today is too important for any single company to undertake on its own. And that's why we helped to found the Libra Association. It's a coalition of 21 companies and nonprofits that are working to give everyone access to financial tools. But even though the Libra Association is independent and we don't control it, I want to be clear. Facebook will not be a part of launching the Libra payment system anywhere in the world, even outside the US, until the US regulators approve. Last time I testified before Congress, I talked about taking a broader view of our responsibility, and that includes making sure our services are used for good and preventing harm. And I want to discuss that across other aspects of our work today as well. People shouldn't be discriminated against on any of our services. We have policies in place to prevent hate speech and remove harmful content, but discrimination can also show up in how ads are targeted and shown too. As part of a settlement with civil rights groups, we've banned advertisers from using age, gender, or zip codes to target housing, employment, or credit opportunities, and we've limited interest-based targeting for these ads too. This is part of our commitment to support civil rights and prevent discrimination. I also know that we need more diverse perspectives in our company. Diversity leads to better decisions and better services for our community. We've made diversity a priority in hiring, and we've also made a commitment that within 5 years, more than 50% of our workforce will be women, people of color, and other underrepresented groups. We've made some progress here. There are more people of color, women in technical and business roles, and underrepresented people in leadership at Facebook now. But I know that we still have a long way to go. Chairwoman Waters, Ranking Member McHenry, and members of the committee, this has been a challenging few years for Facebook. I recognize that we play an important role in society and have unique responsibilities because of that. And I feel blessed to be in a position where we can make a difference in people's lives. And for as long as I'm here, I'm committed to using our position to push for big ideas that I believe can help empower people. Thank you, and I'm looking forward to answering your questions.
Thank you very much. I now recognize myself for 5 minutes for questions. It is no secret that Facebook allowed Russia to undermine and divide our country through divisive online ads. The Senate's investigation discovered that African Americans were targeted the most by Russia, specifically in places where Black Lives Matter groups were the most active. Despite all of your technological expertise, Russia and Iran are at it again for the upcoming election. Then last week, you announced a new ad policy that gives politicians a license to lie so you can earn more money off this division, I suppose. Facebook changes the rules when it can benefit itself. Last year, Facebook banned all cryptocurrency ads on its platform because, and I quote, they are frequently associated with misleading or deceptive promotional practices, quote, unquote. Seems fair. Then earlier this year, Facebook rolled back the cryptocurrency ad ban, bought a blockchain company, and announced its own cryptocurrency. So tell us what changed. How did cryptocurrency go from being misleading and deceptive last year and then becomes a means for financial inclusion this year? It seems to me that you shifted your stance because you realize that you can use your size and your users' data to dominate the cryptocurrency market. You change your policy when it benefits you. You reinstated cryptocurrency ads because you had plans to start your own cryptocurrency. So this brings me back to your new policy on political speech. My question to you is, how does this new policy benefit you? Because it seems that a policy that allows politicians to lie, mislead, and deceive would also allow Facebook to sell more ads to those politicians, thus making your company more money. But you can tell me, how does Facebook benefit?
Chairwoman, thanks for those questions. I'd like to address all of the things that you mentioned in there. On elections, you're right that in 2016 we were on our back foot in terms of preventing Russia from attempting to interfere in our elections. We've spent a lot of the last few years building systems that are more sophisticated than any other company has at this point, and frankly a lot of governments too, for defending against foreign interference. This Monday we announced that we had proactively identified a network of fake Russian accounts and a few networks of Iranian fake accounts that we proactively took down, which certainly, as you say, signals that these nation states are still attempting to interfere, but I hope will also give us some confidence that our systems are now more sophisticated to proactively identify and address these things. On your question about political ads, look, from a business perspective, the very small percent of our business that is made up of political ads does not come anywhere close to justifying the controversy that this incurs for our company. So this really is not about money. This is, on principle, I believe in giving people a voice. I believe that ads can be an important part of voice. I think especially in the political process for challenger candidates and for local candidates or advocacy groups whose message might not otherwise be covered by the media. Having ads can be an important way to inject your message into the political debate.
Let me interrupt you for a minute. Are you telling me, I think as you said to me before, you plan on doing no fact-checking on political ads?
Chairwoman, our policy is that we do not fact-check politicians' speech, and the reason for that is that we believe that in a democracy, it is important that people can see for themselves what politicians are saying. Political speech is some of the most scrutinized speech already in the world.
Do you fact-check on any ads at all?
Yes.
Describe what you fact-check on.
Well, Chairwoman, actually, thank you for the opportunity to clarify. Facebook itself actually does not fact-check. What we do is we have feedback that people in our community don't want to see viral hoaxes or kind of
so
widespread.
let me be clear. You do no fact-checking on any ads. Is that correct?
Chairwoman, what we do is we work with a set of independent fact-checkers who...
Somebody fact-checks on ads. You contract with someone to do that. Is that right?
Chairwoman, yes.
And tell me, who is it that they fact-checked on?
Chairwoman, what we do is when content is getting a lot of distribution and is flagged by members of our community or by our technical systems, it can go into a queue to be reviewed by a set of independent fact-checkers. They can't fact-check everything, but the things that they get to, and if they mark something as false, then we...
All right, my time has expired, and someone else will continue on this line of questioning. And I now call on the gentleman from North Carolina, the ranking member, Mr. McHenry, to be recognized for 5 minutes.
So as I mentioned in my opening statement, I think there are bigger challenges and opportunities facing America than your ad model. Or even the question of Libra. So let's start with your speech last week. Have you changed your view in terms of technology in China? from before your speech on Friday to what we read and heard from your speech on Friday?
Congressman, no, I have not changed my views in the last week.
10 years ago versus today on your view of China and technology versus your speech on Friday.
Congressman, I think it's fair to say that my views have evolved. I probably 10 years ago would have been more optimistic that trying to work in China could have contributed to making a more open society. And today it seems that in some cases working in China not only does not do that, but compromises American companies' ability to promote our values abroad and around the world. And I think we've seen that in the last few weeks in a number of cases.
So you mentioned in your speech, you said a decade ago, 10 of 10 of the top companies on the internet were American. Now 6 of 10 are Chinese. So the question I have for you is, why are we seeing emerging technologies driven by blockchain projects and digital currencies being developed elsewhere, such as the case of Libra?
Well, Congressman, we have a lot of competition around the world. And you're right that over the last decade, pretty much all of the major internet platforms have been American companies with strong free expression values. And I just think that there's no guarantee that that is the state of the world going forward. Today, 6 of the top 10 companies are coming out of China and certainly do not share our values on things like expression.
So on that, why Switzerland for Libra? Why not the United States?
So the Libra Association is an independent association. We're trying to set up a global payment system. Switzerland is where a lot of the international organizations are. Is there
greater regulatory certainty in Switzerland than here in the United States for this type of technology?
I think Switzerland has certainly been forward-leaning on wanting to work through systems like this. But I don't want this to come across as if...
And the United States is not.
Well, Congressman, one of the things that I just want to be clear on is that the Independent Libra Association it's independent. We're a part of it. We helped stand it up. We don't control it. But I just want to make sure it's 100% clear to everyone today that my commitment running Facebook is that we're not going to launch anything that is a product or a part of this until we have full support from U.S. regulators, regardless of what the international regulators
The project of Libra internally, before you handed this technology, this idea over to the association. Let's think of this. Why would you have a project like that? Is it about competition with your peers globally? Is that a component?
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
So you have no payments platform on Facebook. Facebook is not a payments platform. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So in seeking to develop a payments platform internally, before you handed the technology over to the association for Libra, was that because of examples globally of competitors creating payments platforms?
Congressman, it was partially that, and it's partially because I view the financial infrastructure in the United States as outdated. So there are 2 sets of work that we do on payments. One is building payment systems that allow people to send money on top of the existing financial system that exists. That work is relatively less controversial. We're doing it around the world in different countries on top of existing payment systems. There's another set of work, which is what we're trying to do with Libra, which is trying to help rethink what a modern infrastructure for the financial system would be if you started it today rather than 50 years ago on a lot of outdated systems. I mean, I just look at the fact that you can send a text message to someone around the world.
Okay, but let me just drill down on this. Alipay has 900 million users. That is a global competitor, in my view, to Facebook. You see Alipay and WeChat Pay working. Why not just do a Facebook version of Alipay in order to level this?
Congressman, I think you're right that they're certainly competing not just with us, but all of the American companies on this. Part of the infrastructure that they're building on is a lot more modern than some of what we would have to build on here. As soon as we put forward the white paper around the Libra project, China immediately announced a public-private partnership working with companies like that to extend the work that they had already done with Alipay into a digital renminbi as part of the Belt and Road Initiative that they have. And they're planning on launching that in the next few months.
Thank you.
The gentlewoman from New York, Mrs. Maloney, who is also the chair for the Subcommittee on Investor Protection, Entrepreneurship, and Capital Markets, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you. Mr. Zuckerberg, you said, and on page 3 of your testimony, that Facebook will not be part of launching Libra anywhere in the world until all the U.S. regulators approve. So which U.S. regulators are you talking about? There are actually many financial regulators, such as the Fed, the FDIC, the OCC, the SEC, the CFTC, the CFPB, FinCEN, FHFA, and many, many more. And to be clear, Libra would affect all of those regulators. So which of those regulators do you believe need to approve Libra before you will support the launch? And what kind of approval do you believe is necessary? Do you need to see written approval from each regulator? Will those approvals be public?
Congresswoman, thanks for the question. My understanding is probably all of them for different things. Different of these regulators focus on different areas, whether it's financial stability or fighting crimes and fraud and terrorism. Different areas of the work need to get done and are overseen by different regulators.
All right, Paul Rupel here with Fox 29 News Now. You've been watching Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg testify before the House Financial Services Committee. We're going to step away from this for a moment and get you out to a developing story. Skyfox is live right now over Abington Township, Penn State's Abington campus. We've been told Penn State Abington has closed campus until further notice Wednesday while police investigate a possible threat. The university warned students and staff of the threat on Twitter around 10 a.m. The school asked anyone on campus to remain indoors and shelter in place. Students and staff not already on campus have been asked to avoid the campus. Classes were suspended pending further investigation into the threat. See a police vehicle there. I believe that may be the Abington Police Department. Again, PSU Abington closed due to a threat investigation. Let me show you the tweet sent by the campus in a moment. Here is the first alert that was sent by Penn State Abington 48 minutes ago. The second alert, classes are suspended, please do not come to campus. And moments after that, if on campus, please remain inside or get inside a building. Again, the original message asked students and faculty, anyone on campus, to shelter in place. So we're continuing to watch, again, Skyfox over the scene here of the Penn State University Abington campus. where officials are said to be investigating a possible threat. We'll stay with the shot for a little bit. If we get any new developments, any other information from either Abington Police, the campus itself, the university, we'll bring them to you as soon as possible. But again, Skyfox over the scene where authorities are investigating a possible threat at Penn State University's Abington campus. We'll get you any new information as it comes in. All right, let's take a live look at the Benjamin Franklin Parkway and get you a look at your weather forecast. Currently right now, it is 59 degrees outside. The dew point is 46. Winds out of the west at 6 miles per hour. There you see the temperature again. On Ultimate Doppler radar, you'll see the rain the system that brought us all that rain yesterday pulling away in New England. And we've got some clear skies overhead right now. Your current temperatures, 60s and 50s. Mount Pocono getting near the 50s at 49. Hot spot right now is Wildwood, New Jersey, 61. Not too much of a change temperature-wise from yesterday, except maybe in Cape May, where it's about 5 degrees different. For the Northeast, 50s and 60s primarily, lots of green and a little bit of blue there. Some gaps into 40 still. On the national map, Miami, the hot spot at 86, 70s and 60s along the rest of the Gulf Coast, 61 San Francisco, 45 in Portland. Mostly green and blue on the map. Oh, we showed you that. Let's get to our wind speeds. We've got double-digit sustained wind speeds in Atlantic City and Mount Pocono and Lancaster right now. Those gusts to 28 miles per hour in Mount Pocono, not as high elsewhere. The wind's coming out of the west right now. Visibility pretty good around the area, and that's because we don't have much cloud cover on satellite. Let's get you a look at your future cast here, next 24 hours or so. High pressure remaining in charge. We're going to be well below normal anyway for Halloween at 56 degrees for a high. Could be cool for trick-or-treating. So take that into account as you choose your costumes. 7-day forecast right now. Today it's going to be sunny and breezy, 65, an 8 on our forecast by the numbers. We'll do you one better on Thursday, sunny and nice, 68. Friday, sun to clouds, 66, 7 on our forecast by the numbers. And on Saturday, partly sunny, 61 for the Temple home game and the light to night walk. Run for blue on Sunday. Showers could be around though, 65 for a high. Mostly sunny, 67 on Monday. And Tuesday, shower chance, 63. You can get your 7-day forecast from the Fox 29 Weather Authority anytime. Just download the Fox 29 Weather Authority app in the Google Play or Apple iTunes store. All right, let's get you back to the Penn State Penn State Abington campus. Guy Fox is still over the scene there. I see this update from Abington Police. Let me read that to you. Actually, I'll get it on screen for you here. Actually, I'll just read it to you for the moment. Abington Police Department saying that they were notified of a possible threat at Penn State Abington's campus around 9:30 a.m. PSU Police is investigating this threat, and Abington Police is providing a support role. At this time, we believe the community is safe. We will provide more information as it becomes available to us. So again, that's the update from the Abington Police Department, which is assisting Penn State Police with investigating a possible threat on the campus of Penn State University's Abington campus in Montgomery County. If we get any more information, we'll pass it along as soon as possible. All right, let's get you to some local news stories. Developing this morning, there's been a break in the case that's outraged our community. A man is behind bars in connection to the deadly shooting of a 2-year-old girl. Our Lauren Johnson has this report.
The memorial here continues to grow for 2-year-old Nicolette Rivera right outside the home where she was shot and killed on Sunday. At the same time, late last night, police announced an arrest. At least one man is now in custody in connection to the shooting. The acting police commissioner telling us the arrest came last night after her detectives did some top-notch work and this community called in tips. Surveillance video helped track down the car and the tips helped track down the suspect. The video came from the neighborhood where a shooting happened 8 minutes before that 2-year-old was killed. That video helped police pinpoint a car with specific damage and led them to the Chester home of suspect Freddie Perez. Police say they have a search warrant and will search the Edgemont Avenue home today. The best piece of evidence they could recover would be the murder weapon. Police won't call him the gunman, but say he was involved in 2 shootings on Sunday. The first shooting happened on Clearfield Street. 2 men fired an assault rifle and a handgun at a black SUV.
It's the people behind the guns. It's just the stupidity. It ain't the guns itself. It's the ones that's carrying them.
8 minutes later, those same 2 men showed up in the 3300 block of North Water Street and fired off a round of shots into the home where 2-year-old Nicolette Rivera was inside, cradled in her mother's arms. She was hit in the back of her head, died instantly here on scene. Her mother and another man working inside were hit as well. There were also 3 young children inside the home who were unharmed.
All these babies is out here dying left and right from the stupidity of people having guns and don't know what to do with them. It's not right. I'm a mother. It's not right.
Why hurt someone's child? You understand? That could be his child. Did he think about that?
It's something that it should not even happen nowhere around the world. We just need more love within each other and just help each other.
It could have been worse, and it's hard to even say that when a 2-year-old's murdered, that it could have been worse, but it could have. There was 4 children in the home. There was a grandmother in the home, as well as the 2 other people who were shot. So at the end of the day, I mean, it's hard to imagine it being more tragic, but it very well could have been. The gun violence is frightening. It's inexcusable. At the end of the day, the responsibility lies with the people who make those decisions of using a gun and picking up a gun.
And those same guns are taking lives like little Nicolette's and nearly 300 people already in 2019. Police say the suspect did have a previous dispute with Nicolette's father over drugs and was clearly targeting this house. The child's father was not home at that time. Police say there is someone else still at large. They need the community to continue to call in tips to help them make another arrest. In Kensington, Lauren Johnson, Fox 29 News.
Thank you to Lauren for that report. So sad. Let's get you to a few other stories. A fraternity at Penn State University is suspended after a teen was found dead near campus. Police say a 17-year-old who was visiting from Erie, Pennsylvania, was found in an off-campus house on Saturday night after the whiteout game against Michigan. State police found him in full cardiac arrest at a house occupied by members of the Chi Phi fraternity. We talked about that this morning with a local attorney and about the history here with including the death of freshman Tim Piazza 2 years ago. Here was that conversation from Good Day Philadelphia this morning.
7:32. Well, another Penn State University fraternity suspended after a teenager, 17 years old, still in high school, was found dead inside of an off-campus house.
So this is the school's second death in 2 years. Police say 17-year-old John Schunig, who was visiting from Erie, Pennsylvania, was found in an off-campus house on Saturday night after the whiteout game against Michigan. State College police found him in full cardiac arrest at a house that was occupied by members of the Chi Phi fraternity. The university has suspended the fraternity during this investigation. And you may remember back in 2017, Penn State freshman Timothy Piazza died after a night of hazing and drinking, but this was at a fraternity house, an official fraternity house. So the cases are a little different, but based on what happened to Timothy Piazza and all the increased focus on making sure that this kind of thing doesn't happen again, you have to wonder, even though this happened at an off-campus house and there are believed to be some fraternity members present, and even though the young man wasn't in college, you have to wonder what may have happened there.
Yeah, the minute we heard about it last night, we thought of you, Tom, and Timothy's parents, of course, who you represent.
I do.
Have you heard from the parents? I mean, this has to bring back all the memories.
I have. They're in Washington. Tim died needlessly at Penn State in this horrible hazing incident. Jim and Evelyn Piazza have devoted their lives to trying to eradicate hazing. They're on Capitol Hill. They're trying to push for a national law. We succeeded in, of course, having the Timothy Piazza anti-hazing law in Pennsylvania, which has tougher penalties and also tougher reporting requirements. They want a website that you can tell what a fraternity has done wrong in the past 5 years. They want tougher reporting requirements by universities. We have them in Pennsylvania. They want them nationally. They were on Fox News last night with Martha McCallum. They're out there promoting it.
They want the culture changed.
That's right. It's a cultural thing. It's a very difficult thing to change cultural norms. But drinking is a large part of it. The drinking culture. We don't know what happened in this particular case, but what we do know is that you have a young man. He shows up at a house which is largely occupied by fraternity young men, and all of a sudden he's dead. We have suspicions. There's a network of people who care about these issues a lot. We think we have some inside information. I can't share it with you.
It was Saturday night, right?
Yes, it was Saturday night. And there are people who talk to investigators. But the fact of the matter is, what you have here is an incident which is likely related to drugs or alcohol. Young people shouldn't be dying on campuses, let alone visitors who are 17 years old.
Right, still in high school. But it's interesting that Penn State did have a faster response. They immediately, we don't know all the details, yet the fraternity has been suspended.
And I would say this, that the Piazzas and myself have worked very closely with Penn State, and we've tried to change the culture there. We've tried to change the norms. President Barron has done an excellent job, and I think will continue to do so. This shutting of this fraternity house right away, clamping down.
What does that say to to you?
It says to me that they believe that a congregation of young people where there is a resulting death deserves an investigation and deserves an immediate suspension.
Because they know more than we do.
Yes, they sure do. And they have the correct response, in my view, and the correct instinct. And that's important.
And it's important to send a message. We're talking about the culture. One way to help try to change that culture, if the kids know, they're serious.
Well, we have a new hazing bill, which is the Timothy Piazza anti-hazing bill, which can result in felony, which can mean that you can end up in jail if you're involved in a serious incident which results in death, and forfeiture of your of your thing. And you're seeing a very proud moment here. The Piazzas got it done. The Piazzas are the most remarkable advocates in this fight against hazing, and they have succeeded on some fronts, and they're not going to sleep until they get where they want to go, which is to eradicate hazing.
Is that something we need to
Yes,
say?
we do have to say, mention that you, like you've said, you represent the Piazzas, and you have settled with the fraternity. There's been a settlement, but the civil case against the students involved in the security company is ongoing when it comes to the Timothy Piazza case.
Yes, and I understand all of those niceties, and that is absolutely correct. We have an ongoing lawsuit, and that lawsuit is designed to make every person who was in that house that night accountable. We have not only settled our lawsuit with Penn State, but also with the National Fraternity, and the main provisions of that settlement are reform, both on the national level with the fraternity and with Penn State.
Okay.
There is progress being made. This is not static. This is a setback to see a youngster die, and we're going to follow it very closely.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks for having me in. It's an important issue.
It is. We'll be right back.
All right. We're going to get you to, let's turn to national news here. We're expecting to hear from President Trump very shortly on Syria. Yesterday we showed you that the president had used the word lynching to describe the impeachment process. Now former President Joe Biden has had to apologize. Fox's Douglas Zader reports from Washington this morning on why that is.
Yes.
Democrats say their case for impeaching the president is stronger now than ever after a star witness appeared behind closed doors yesterday.
President Trump, meantime, riled critics by calling the impeachment inquiry a lynching. And Douglas Zader, there was all kinds of reaction from people yesterday to him tweeting that.
That's for sure. Good morning, guys. And the president's use of that word did touch off a firestorm. It also created some complications for some Democrats.
President Trump has never held back on his thoughts about impeachment, but this tweet calling the process a lynching drew fire.
How dare he? How dare he?
On the Democratic campaign trail, outrage. Former Vice President Joe Biden called it abhorrent and despicable, but he would later apologize for his own use of lynching. The Washington Post found that Biden and at least 4 other Democrats used the same word to describe President Clinton's 1998 impeachment.
Given the history in our country, I would not compare this to a lynching. That was an unfortunate choice of words. It is an unfair process.
And as Republicans question the impeachment process, Democrats think they advanced the ball with testimony yesterday from the top U.S. diplomat in Ukraine, Bill Taylor, who described in detail why he thought aid to Ukraine would only flow if the country investigated the 2016 U.S. election and a company linked to Joe Biden's son, Hunter.
This is my most disturbing day in Congress so far. Very troubling.
And while national support for impeaching the president has been growing, according to recent surveys, a new poll shows that in a half dozen critical swing states, a majority, 53%, oppose it.
And the president is heading to one of those swing states, Pennsylvania, later today. Mike and
Well, that is a niche poll there, right?
It is, but this place, the swing states obviously play a more critical role as you get closer to the election.
Yeah.
And look, we're closing in on February.
I just find that's an interesting poll. I never looked at it that way. Good job. Thank you,
Doug.
The president is expected to speak, was expected to speak at 11, so he should be stepping up to the microphone soon. Podium, I should say. Here's a shot inside the White House as we await the president's speech. He's making a statement on Syria. I can show you what he had to say on Twitter earlier. Big success on the Turkey-Syria border. Safe zone created, ceasefire has held, and combat missions have ended. Kurds are safe and have worked very nicely with us. Captured ISIS prisoners secured. I will be making a statement at 11 a.m. from the White House. Thank you. So we expect the statement will be more along those lines. The president also goading the Democratic impeachment inquiry by asking, where's the whistleblower, in his latest tweet about 2 hours ago. Retweeted a couple of clips from Fox and Friends, or Fox News last evening, and Fox Business as well. Also talked about how young campus conservatives are flocking to Turning Point USA and other conservative speaker events all across the country, and in record numbers. Went on to quote conservative talk show host Charlie Kirk. The founder, he's the founder and president of Turning Point USA, also chairman of Trump Students. So we're waiting to hear from the president here at the White House. It was anticipated to begin at 11 a.m., but has not yet begun. While we wait for the president to step to the microphone here and speak, let's take you on get you a look at conditions around the region. It's a nice day out there right now. Here come our regional weather cameras from around the Philadelphia region. come back around to Allentown. So waiting for the president to speak here about Syria. So let's get you to a few other local stories while we wait. Two teenage girls raped in northeast Philadelphia in a 5-day span, and police think the same man is behind both attacks. The suspect was caught on surveillance video. Investigators say the attacks happened on October 15th and 21st in the Oxford Circle section of the city. In both cases, the victims, a 16-year-old and 18-year-old, got off the SEPTA Route 14 bus at Levick Street and Bustleton Avenue. Police say the man followed them for a couple of blocks, pulled them into an alley and driveway, and assaulted them. The man grabbed the girls' cell phones before taking off. If you have any information about this crime or know anyone matching the description, please contact Philadelphia Police. In Delaware County, the teacher seen shouting racial slurs at a parent has resigned. The Upper Darby School Board accepted her resignation last night. The father, being insulted, posted the incident on Facebook. The teacher, Renee Greeley, calls him a racial slur. She'd worked at Drexel Hill Middle School since 2008. The father says the incident started with a minor fender bender in the school parking lot last week. In Mercer County, New Jersey, the mother of a 13-year-old middle school student says her daughter is hurt and confused after a racially charged incident during a high school football game in Lawrence Township. This morning, two 17-year-old high school students have been arrested. The girl's mother says not only was her daughter called a racial slur, but was also urinated on as one of the students exposed himself. Lawrence Township Police identified the teens as Indian American. The victim's mother says her daughter reported it to police officers at the game, but the chief of police says he learned of the incident the next morning from the mayor.
I also talked to one of my command level officers who was working at the football game that evening, off duty, and he reaffirmed the fact that at no time did anybody approach a police officer and report that there was a bias incident that took place.
That was Chief of Police Brian Callisto of the Lawrence Township Police Department. The mother told us she told a police officer twice, and twice she was told to go sit down and they would come over, but they didn't. Police say more arrests could be on the way in this case. Happening today in Cumberland County, New Jersey, we're expecting an update on the search for 5-year-old Dulce Maria Alaves. Officials will hold a news conference at 11:30 a.m. at Bridgeton City Park. That's where investigators say Dulce was abducted while playing on the swings with her brother back on September 16th. Investigators still want to talk to a man they believe is a possible witness. A $52,000 reward is being offered for information that will bring her home safely. And police are looking for a hit-and-run driver who struck a 15-year-old boy near his school yesterday. This happened near Lincoln High School in Mayfair just before noon yesterday. Police say the driver was in a newer model gold Nissan sedan. The teen is at Torresdale Hospital in stable condition. Back live to camera shot outside our studios here at 4th and Market Streets in Old City. Get you a quick look at the weather. 61 right now. The dew point is 41. Winds out of the west at 11 miles per hour. Here's a look at Ultimate Doppler radar, where you see the system that brought us that rain yesterday is lifted out and up through New England, is currently up in Maine and moving into Canada. Reminder that we are waiting to hear from President Trump. He's going to make a statement on Syria. I believe this will be something along the lines of what he tweeted a couple hours ago now. Let's show you that statement real quick. Big success on the Turkey-Syria border. Safe zone created. Ceasefire has held and combat missions have ended. Kurds are safe and have worked very nicely with us. Captured ISIS prisoners secured. I will be making a statement at 11 a.m. from the White House. Thank you. Statement from the President. So we'll get you that statement from the President as soon as it begins. While we're waiting for the President to speak here, I can read you the latest headline from the Associated Press. An Iraq official is telling the AP that U.S. troops from Syria to leave Iraq in 4 weeks. The headline here, the lead here, U.S. troops withdrawing from northeastern Syria to Iraq are transiting and will leave the country within 4 weeks, Iraq's defense minister said Wednesday. He made the remarks to the Associated Press following a meeting in Baghdad with visiting U.S. Defense Secretary Mark Esper, who arrived as Iraqi leaders chafed over reports the U.S. may want to increase the number of troops based in Iraq, at least temporarily. Iraq's military said Tuesday that American troops leaving northeastern Syria don't have permission to stay in Iraq in a statement that appeared to contradict Esper, who has said that all U.S. troops leaving Syria would continue to conduct operations against the Islamic State group from Iraq to prevent its resurgence in the region. An official later added that the troops would be there temporarily until they, I believe they're talking about Esper here. Esper later added that the troops would be there temporarily until they are able to go home, but no time period has been set. So that is the latest on Syria and the timeline for where troops are headed who have left Syria. Again, we're waiting to hear from President Trump, who has said he will speak about Syria. Not too much else specifically about exactly what he intends to speak about here, but he probably following up on the comments he's made here on Twitter. All right, let's get you an update on a story we brought you earlier today. While we wait for President Trump to speak here. This is related to the possible threat at Penn State Abington. Police have announced an all clear now. Did so about 11 minutes ago. The threat has ended. Campus has reopened. Classes beginning at or after 2 p.m. will be held as normal. So again, police were investigating a possible threat at the Penn State University campus in Abington Township, Montgomery County. They've now given the all clear, saying that the threat has ended, campus has reopened, and classes will begin at or after 2 p.m. Classes beginning at or after 2 p.m. will be held as normal. Let's get you out to another event that's occurring at the moment as we wait for the president. Officials are holding an event today to discuss the continuing search for Dulce Maria Alves, the young girl who went missing from Bridgeton City Park. They're going to be providing that update at a news conference. It was scheduled for 11:30, so it looks like they're setting up for that now at the park. That's where investigators say Dulce was abducted while playing on the swings with her brother back on September 16th. Investigators still want to talk to a man they believe is a possible witness. A $52,000 reward is being offered for information that will bring little Dulce home safely. See the children holding signs there. Looking for any information they can get to help bring the young child home. There again is a picture of the witness that police are hoping to speak with. He was seen at the park at the same time as the disappearance. That sketch was done a few weeks after the incident. Authorities are hoping he might have more information about the young child's disappearance. I don't think the woman at the microphone is speaking just yet, but let's listen in.
Oh, cards, yes, thank you.
Hearing that this may be the family providing an update on the search, but we'll... Of course, we're also waiting for the president to speak at the White House. There's a live look inside the White House from the Oval Office. Get you out to these events as available. Here's the news conference we're expecting in Bridgeton about the continuing search for 5-year-old Dulce Maria Alaves.
Could we get the names of the kids?
We're also currently waiting for the president, who was expected to speak at the White House at 11 a.m., but has yet to step to the podium. I'll also be carrying this for you on Fox 29, on fox29.com, and on our Facebook page. I can tell you that Pennsylvania Senator Bob Casey was just responding to some of the president's actions in Syria. Said President Erdogan in Turkey is empowered by the president's reckless decision to withdraw from Syria, effectively greenlighting the Turkish incursion. Turkey must not break from the non-proliferation treaty to arm itself with nuclear weapons, and the U.S. must lead by example in upholding it. He's responding to a New York Times World article here titled, Erdogan's ambitions go beyond Syria. He says he wants nuclear weapons. Senator Casey of Pennsylvania said we should be deeply skeptical of Turkey's nuclear ambitions given Russia's support for a Turkish nuclear program and Turkey's recent purchase of the S-400 missile system. The non-proliferation treaty is crucial for international stability. The senator went on to add, by withdrawing from JCPOA, President Trump further destabilized the Middle East by accelerating Iran's path to nuclear weapons. By empowering Erdogan to act on its own ambitions, President Trump may be doing the same with Turkey. All right, it looks like our coverage is picked up on air. Let's get you for the ahead of the president's speech here. Let's listen in.
To the microphone, John Roberts also reporting that he's not expected to use the word permanent when talking about the lasting ceasefire that has been brokered. So we'll listen for all of that when the president begins any moment now.
Yeah, a big concern, too, about the oil fields. We'll see that. Sandra, you referenced that. And these ISIS prisoners now. There are estimates that could be as many as 10,000 prisoners and also sympathizers as a result of the ongoing conflict and the home base there in the city of Raqqa in northeastern Syria. Many European countries have not wanted to take these prisoners back. There's a question as to whether or not you can keep them secured and inside these prisons. So far, for the greater majority of these ISIS sympathizers and prisoners. That effort has been successful.
Thornberry said that there will still be efforts by ISIS to re-emerge, was his warning. There will be efforts by Assad and Russia to extend their control. He then went on to tell us earlier on this program, Bill, that I can predict with 99.9% certainty that the U.S. will be tested in the weeks ahead. So we will hear more from the president on all of this.
Mike Pompeo walking in the room. We can see him on the other camera as we await, probably a few seconds away. Waleed Ferris, your reaction, stand by. Here is the president as he comes into the diplomatic room. Waleed, we'll get your comment after this.
Well, thank you very much. My fellow Americans, I greet you this morning from the White House to announce a major breakthrough toward achieving a better future for Syria and for the Middle East. It's been a long time. Over the last 5 days, you have seen that a ceasefire that we established along Syria's border has held, and has held very well, beyond most expectations. Early this morning, the government of Turkey informed my administration that they would be stopping combat and their offensive in Syria and making the ceasefire permanent, and it will indeed be permanent. However, you would also define the word permanent in that part of the world as somewhat questionable. We all understand that, but I do believe it will be permanent. I've therefore instructed the Secretary of the Treasury to lift all sanctions imposed on October 14th in response to Turkey's original offensive moves against the Kurds in Syria's northeast border region. So the sanctions will be lifted unless something happens that we're not happy with. This was an outcome created by us, the United States, and nobody else, no other nation. Very simple. And we're willing to take blame, and we're also willing to take credit. This is something they've been trying to do for many, many decades. Since then, others have come out to help, and we welcome them to do so. Other countries have stepped forward. They want to help, and we think that's great. The nations in the region must ultimately take on the responsibility of helping Turkey and Syria police their border. We want other nations to get involved. We've secured the oil, and therefore a small number of U.S. troops will remain in the area where they have the oil. And we're going to be protecting it, and we'll be deciding what we're going to do with it in the future. In any event, by the moves that we've made, we are achieving a much more peaceful and stable area between Turkey and Syria, including a 20-mile-wide safe zone. An interesting term, safe zone. That's the term we're using. Hopefully, that zone will become safe. Thousands and thousands of people have been killed in that zone over the years. But it's been sought for many, many decades, and I think we have something that's going to be strong and hold up. Turkey, Syria, and all forms of the Kurds have been fighting for centuries. We have done them a great service, and we've done a great job for all of them. And now we're getting out. Long time. We were supposed to be there for 30 days. That was almost 10 years ago. So we're there for 30 days, and now we're leaving. It was supposed to be a very quick hit, and let's get out. And it was a quick hit, except they stayed for almost 10 years. Let someone else fight over this long, blood-stained sand. I want to thank Vice President Pence and Secretary of State Pompeo for leading the American delegation so successfully to Turkey several days ago, along with National Security Advisor O'Brien. I want to thank them very much. The American delegation negotiated the original 5-day ceasefire that ended Kurdish fighters to safely leave. It just got them to a point where, frankly, they were able, it enabled them to get out, to go and move really just a few miles in a slightly different direction. So this enabled them to do so. Countless lives are now being saved as a result of our negotiation with Turkey, an outcome reached without spilling one drop of American blood. no injuries, nobody shot, nobody killed. I have just spoken to General Mazloum, a wonderful man, the commander-in-chief of the SDF Kurds, and he was extremely thankful for what the United States has done. Could not have been more thankful. General Mazloum has assured me that ISIS is under very, very strict lock and key, and the detention facilities are being strongly maintained. There were a few that got out, a small number, relatively speaking, and they've been largely recaptured. I'm also sure that he will be issuing his own statement very shortly. We had a great talk, but we've saved the lives of many, many Kurds. He understands that. The war was going to be vicious and probably not very long. And I'm very happy to have been involved in it, as are our Vice President, our Secretary of State, and all of the other people on our team. By getting that ceasefire to stick, we've done something that's very, very special. But by getting the ceasefire after a tremendous amount of really tough war for a very short period of days, that is something very special. Our troops are safe, and the pain and suffering of the three-day fight that occurred was directly responsible for our ability to make an agreement with Turkey and the Kurds that could never have been made without this short-term outburst. Should Turkey fail to honor its obligations, including the protection of religious and ethnic minorities, which I truly believe they will do, we reserve the right to reimpose crippling sanctions, including substantially increased tariffs on steel and all other products coming out of Turkey. We are now an economic powerhouse like never before, and very importantly, like no other. Our economic might is stronger than it's ever been, and our competitors are not doing very well. We also expect Turkey to abide by its commitment regarding ISIS as a backup to the Kurds watching over them. Should something happen, Turkey is there to grab them. Further, we implore European countries to come and take those fighters that the U.S. captured and bring them back to their countries for incarceration and for trial. Until just recently, Europe has been very unresponsive in doing what they should have been doing for a long time. Now is their chance to finally act. American forces defeated 100% of the ISIS caliphate during the last 2 years. We thank the Syrian Democratic Forces for their sacrifices in this effort. They've been terrific. Now Turkey, Syria, and others in the region must work to ensure that ISIS does not regain any territory. It's their neighborhood. They have to maintain it. They have to take care of it. There were some political pundits who responded to Turkey's offensive in Syria by calling for yet another American military intervention. I don't think so. But halting the incursion by military force would have required deploying tens of thousands of American troops against Turkey, a NATO ally, and a country the United States has developed a very good relationship with, including President Erdogan. The same people that I watched and read giving me and the United States advice were the people that I have been watching and reading for many years. They are the ones that got us into the Middle East mess, but never had the vision or the courage to get us out. They just talk. How many Americans must die in the Middle East in the midst of these ancient sectarian and tribal conflicts? After all of the precious blood and treasure America has poured into the deserts of the Middle East, I am committed to pursuing a different course, one that leads to victory for America. Through much work, we have done things that everybody said couldn't be done. Today's announcement validates our course of action with Turkey that only a couple of weeks ago was scorned. And now people are saying, wow, what a great outcome. Congratulations. It's too early to me to be congratulated, but we've done a good job. We've saved a lot of lives. Most importantly, we have avoided another costly military intervention that could have led to disastrous, far-reaching consequences. Many thousands of people could have been killed. The last administration said Assad must go. They could have easily produced that outcome, but they didn't. In fact, they drew a very powerful red line in the sand. You all remember the red line in the sand when children were gassed and killed, but then did not honor their commitment as other children died in the same horrible manner. But I did honor my commitments with 58 Tomahawks. 8 long years after President Obama's ill-fated push at regime change, U.S. troops are still on the ground in Syria. More than 500,000 people are dead. Hundreds of thousands are terribly injured, and millions more Syrians are displaced. It really is a nightmare of misery. Across the Middle East, we have seen anguish on a colossal scale. We have spent $8 trillion on wars in the Middle East, never really wanting to win those wars. But after all that money was spent and all those lives lost, the young men and women gravely wounded so many. The Middle East is less safe, less stable, and less secure than before these conflicts began. The same people pushing for these wars are often the ones demanding America open its doors to unlimited migration from war-torn regions, importing the terrorism and the threat of terrorism right to our own shores. But not anymore. My administration understands that immigration security is national security. As a candidate for president, I made clear that we needed a new approach to American foreign policy, one guided not by ideology, but by experience, history, and a realistic understanding of the world. We are building up America's military might like never before, investing $2.5 trillion since my election. But we will not be depleted. We will not happen again. It will not be allowed to happen again, where our military is depleted, fighting in areas of the world where we shouldn't be. When we commit American troops to battle, we must do so only when a vital national interest is at stake. And when we have a clear objective, a plan for victory, and a path out of conflict, that's what we have to have. We need a plan of victory. We will only win. Our whole basis has to be the right plan, and then we will only win. Nobody can beat us. Nobody can beat us. I want to again thank everyone on the American team who helped achieve the ceasefire in Syria, saved so many lives, along with President Erdogan of Turkey, a man I've gotten to know very well, and a man who loves his country. And in his mind, he's doing the right thing for his country. And we may be meeting in the very near future. I also want to thank General Mazloum for his understanding and for his great strength and for his incredible words today to me, but me just as a representative of the United States, because he knows that we saved tens of thousands of Kurds And we're not talking in the long term, we're talking in the short term. We're talking something that was going on immediately and something, frankly, that was planned for a long time. The job of our military is not to police the world. Other nations must step up and do their fair share. That hasn't taken place. Today's breakthrough is a critical step in that direction. Thank you all very much, and God bless America. Thank you.
Mr. President, you said that the ISIS fighters who escaped have been recaptured, but today your top envoy said that's not true, that they don't know where they are. Do you have a comment?
The words of the president a moment ago, let someone else fight over this long blood-stained sand. President Trump announcing a ceasefire is permanent, adding permanent to be questionable in that part of the world. Here's what we know. 1,000 U.S. troops were pulled out less than a week ago. Sanctions have been removed from Turkey, saying the oil has been secured in the area. A small amount of U.S. troops will stay to protect that oil. Those are some of the major headlines right now, saying the 20-mile wide zone has been created, and for now, quote, we are getting out. The words of the president, the White House, and the diplomatic room just there. Stay tuned to this Fox News channel and the Fox station for continuing coverage on this story. I'm Bill Hemmer in New York. Have a good day. We'll see you very soon. And now we're...
This has been the Fox News Special Report.
Again, that was the president speaking from the diplomatic room and announcing that Turkey has informed the U.S. it will make the Syrian ceasefire permanent, and the U.S. has directed the lifting of sanctions. While that was going on, we also had for you, we also had ongoing at the same time, there was a news conference occurring at the Bridgeton Park where 5-year-old Dulce Maria Alves was last seen. Our Bruce Gordon was there for the news conference, and we'll have a full report on the Fox 29 News at 5 and 6. And we'll continue to follow that on at 10 and 11 tonight. In the meantime, I want to thank you for joining us today on Fox 29 News Now. We're with you weekdays after Good Day Philadelphia, starting shortly after the Good Day After show each morning. Thank you for watching, and have a great rest of your Wednesday.